with a training manual on gender-based violence at a better time, when women, especially girls, are being robbed of their future by abuse and maltreatment. The manual presented by the Women's Bureau in partnership with the UNFPA is designed to address violence against women, recognizing its uncommon upsurge across the world. In close touch with the community, the police are expected to contribute immensely in the quest to combat violence of all forms, which is why the Bureau is bent on acquainting the security force with vital information on methods to address the issue and curb this constant menace. Commending the Women's Bureau for the well-timed initiative, the Commissioner of Police in Banjul said the information provided by the manual will critically aid law enforcement personnel to stay ahead of perpetrators, noting that the training manual will be incorporated in the Police Academy training manual for greater diffusion.
One of the critical tenets of this reform process is capacity building of the police officers. The police management is of review that it takes well-trained and well-informed officers to deliver professional service to the people of the Gambia and the world at large. Therefore, the Women's Bureau and the UNFPA deserve all the commendations for coming up with such a brilliant idea to arm our officers with the requisite knowledge which would enable us to achieve our objectives concerning issues of gender.
The Deputy Executive Director of Women's Bureau emphasized the government's commitment in addressing gender-based violence, highlighting the international instruments signed and ratified to promote and protect the development of women and the conventions eliminating all forms of violence against the female persona.
This is a clear manifestation of government commitment in the implementation of national and regional treaties and conventions such as the AU Solemn Declaration on Gender Equality in Africa, the Beijing Platform for Action, the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325, as well as the African Charter of Human and People's Rights on the rights of women in Africa.
In an in-depth presentation of the module, GAMCO TRAP's program officer shared how the module was developed.
Just to assure you that we did not develop this manual based on our subjectivity. We base it on the reality. We base it on the lived realities of Gambians so that we make it a Gambian touch. Because we looked around the continent and we searched various manuals used by police officers. We took clue from some of them and we contextualized what we have so that we have an objective, factual manual for the Gambia.
The Commissioner of the Police Academy described the manual as enriching while noting its benefits to the Academy, especially for prospective officers who have to pass through the school.
I am happy to say that the document has come at a very good time. Good time in the sense that the training of the recruits is coming to a completion in a month's time. And very soon from now we will be having an order intake which will give us the opportunity to be able to start that training with those that are coming.
A perfectly timely intervention by the Women's Bureau for law enforcement personnel who may have to deal with issues regarding gender-based violence. This is just a manual to raise awareness and guide them towards effectively addressing a persistent hazard against women. For GRTS News, I am Abdullah Baji.
We'll be back with news from beyond our borders. Please stick with us. Welcome back. President Barack Obama says the United States will conduct a vigorous investigation into whether Syria used chemical weapons. Mr. Obama met with Jordan's King Abdullah Friday. He says the U.S. has to act prudently, but it cannot stand by and permit the use of chemical weapons on civilians. This is not the first time the Syrian government has been suspected of using chemical weapons. CNN's Pentagon correspondent Barbara Starr has the details.
March 19th, Aleppo, Syria. There is talk civilians here have been attacked with chemical weapons, but no confirmation. Now, suddenly, Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel traveling in the Middle East.
The U.S. intelligence community assesses with some degree of varying confidence that the Syrian regime has used chemical weapons on a small scale in Syria, specifically the chemical agent sarin.
The White House sent letters to Congress responding to questions about chemical weapons use and calling for a UN investigation. After the debacle over Iraqi weapons, Hagel says the U.S. needs to confirm exactly what happened.
We need all the facts. We need all the information.
Senator John McCain told CNN's Jake Tapper it's not the response he wants.
A disappointment, but not surprise. The president has not wanted to engage in Syria in any way, any meaningful way, for a couple of years.
McCain wants a no-fly zone, weapons provided to the Syrian opposition, and chemical weapons secured. President Obama had promised action, but was never specific.
A red line for us is we start seeing a whole bunch of chemical weapons moving around or being utilized. That would change my calculus.
A senior U.S. official says the Syrians continue moving chemical stockpiles, causing even more worry. Hagel is sending the 1st Armored Division's headquarters from Fort Bliss, Texas, to Jordan. The official tells CNN it will spearhead securing Syria's weapons if ordered.
We could use airstrikes, drone strikes. There could be teams of special forces who go into the country.
But the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who is reviewing military options, says troops aren't the answer.
All that planning done. You have confidence that we could secure it? Not as I sit here today, simply because they've been moving it, and the number of sites is quite numerous.
The U.S. is adamant there will be no go-it-alone military action for American troops, but many allies are still reluctant to get involved, and it's raising questions about where all of this is headed. Barbara Starr, CNN, The Pentagon.
On Sunday, 26,000 runners are set to take part in another marathon. This time it is in the Spanish capital, Madrid. And as CNN's Al Goodman tells us, security is being seriously taken care of.
Where it starts, the Madrid Marathon, which is actually 3 races, a marathon, a half marathon, and a 10-kilometer race. They're expecting 26,000 runners, and they're heading that way.
The course winds through the city streets and comes to the Retiro Park. Security for the marathon here has been beefed up after the Boston Marathon bombings. One official says that means not just making the race secure, but giving the impression to runners that it's safe. This man is running on Sunday and says he's not worried.
I think the citizens, we don't have to be afraid about that. We have just to continue to live our lives and just believe in the organization and just think that it was just one thing that will never happen again.
Spain's fight against terrorism changed after the Madrid train bombings in 2004 that killed 191 people. Experts say Spain improved its intelligence gathering, the coordination among its own police forces, and its cooperation with international police forces. They're confident this race will be safe. It ends right here. Al Goodman, CNN, Madrid.
Well, 3 days after the Boston Marathon bombings, the suspects were involved in a shootout with police in nearby Watertown. That is where the elder Sanov brother was killed. But before that shootout, the brothers commandeered a car and its driver. CNN's Brian Todd has this incredible moment-by-moment recap of the carjacking and what we are learning from the driver.
Carjacking began more than a week ago Thursday night along the Brighton Avenue area outside downtown Boston, just along this strip. It began with suspect Tamerlan Tsarnaev knocking on the window of the victim's car and demanding a ride. It played out for about 90 minutes and left the victim shaking. Tamerlan Tsarnaev, according to the victim, wielded a silver handgun when he climbed into the black Mercedes SUV. The suspect's first words.
Said, did you hear about the bombing, the marathon bombing? And Danny said, I did. And he said, well, That's me. I did that, and I just killed the Cambridge cop.
Professor James Fox, a criminologist at Northeastern University, has counseled the victim and knows every detail of the story.